Alright guys, here we are again at Calaveras Lake doing some fishing for redfish. It's the first week of April and the reds are starting to pick up. So I thought I'd do a quick video on some of the tricks that we do out here on the wall that can hopefully help you guys catch some redfish. So I've got a couple of different rigs that I use when I'm out here that tend to help out. Like always, you know, these are different techniques that I've seen from other fishermen that I've gathered over the years, but they all do tend to help out quite a bit. My buddy Steven just got a red right now. See how big that one is. But yeah, so I just thought I'd take a couple of minutes for, you know, anybody who's interested in coming out here and wanting to fish out here. So like I said, different rigs we use. Typically when I'm fishing out here, I have about 4 different rigs that I like to use. You may hear some people, when you're talking to individuals out here, they may say they have a balloon rig, or they have a bottle rig, or they're free lining live bait. So I'll kind of show you what they're probably talking about. So when the individuals are talking about a bottle rig, this is kind of what I use. So it's just basically is a water bottle. Just has a little bit of water, so it can kind of act like a weight. And what I do is I have about 6 feet of line, and I go to a 3-way swivel. On the other end of the 3-way swivel, I have another 6 feet of line. Ends up going straight to a hook. No swivel on this end. Usually what I do is I usually have a swivel kind of about, you know, maybe about 6 inches in between. This way if I need to change out the hook, all I got to do is cut the small leader, put a new hook on. So this is a bottle rig that we use out here. Works extremely well when there's current in the water. So as we're fishing out here on the wall, you can see there's a big channel. So we're basically fishing out that way. So whenever there is current, these bottles work great. You throw your rig out, and if you notice your line starting to get, you know, real tight, that means you've got a pretty good current. So this bottle, as much line as you have on your spool, you can get this line out with a good current, 100 yards, 200 yards, 250 plus. So it works out really, really well. But of course it works well when there's a current. If there's no current, and if you throw your bottle out and you start seeing your bottle come back to this wall, you probably don't want to be using this type of rig. Just because you're constantly, every time you throw your bottle out, about every 2-3 minutes, you're going to be reeling it back in, throwing it back out. So if you want to do that, if you want to, you know, obviously keep throwing over and over, by all means you can still use it. But if I see that bottle coming in, I stay away from this rig. The kind of bottle I like using a Gatorade bottle. The reason why I like using a Gatorade bottle, it's got this cut on the middle. At the end of the day, when I'm done fishing, it works out real good for me to be able to wrap this thing up. So all I do, just wrap it up real tight. I usually have a hair scrunchie. You know, just put that on there. I can just go ahead and put it back in my boat. This way I don't have lines kind of flopping all over the place. I do have 2 different types of bottles that I use out here. You don't have to do this. This is just something that I do. But I have one cap, that color black. The other cap is, you know, the same colored orange. The reason I have the different colors, the black cap, I typically use barbless hooks. And then on the orange caps, these are the hooks with the barb. I typically always use circle hooks. I use 5/0 hooks, they work out pretty good. And usually when I'm using the barbless, I usually use shrimp. That's my preferred bait of choice. And when I'm talking about shrimp, I'm talking about head-on shrimp. I'm not talking about the TV bait shrimp or any shrimp that's already, you know, been deveined. That's not going to work out very good over here. If you can call your local seafood department and get some head-on shrimp, that works out, you know, pretty good out here. So every trip I make to the lake, I always make sure I have some head-on shrimp with me. So if I have head-on shrimp, I'll use the barbless hook. If I'm using some live bait, then especially tilapia or perch, then that's when I use the other bottle with the barb. This way, just so it can kind of hold on to the bait and the bait doesn't come off. The barbless hooks work wonders. I don't think I've ever lost a fish on a barbless hook, especially with the circle hooks. Once they take it, it gets them right in the corner of the mouth. You know, real hard for that fish to break back off. Another thing you might hear out here is you might hear someone say they're using a balloon rig. Or if you're fishing out here on the wall, if you have a south wind, a balloon rig works real great also. So the way I have my balloon rig set up, this is the short end version, but I have a 2-ounce weight that ends on a swivel, and the same thing. I have another, I don't know, probably about 10 inches, a short leader, same thing, tied to a circle hook. This one I always use a barb hooked on. I'll use either the shrimp or I'll use some live bait. Where this weight is, I actually have normally a 6-foot leader, so it's pretty long. And on the end of that leader, so this is your main line, I have my main line swivel, and you're going to notice I actually have a secondary swivel on here. So what I do with my balloon rig, inflate my balloon, and I'll actually put the ring of the balloon right through that swivel. What this ends up doing, if you have a south wind, and it has to be a south wind or maybe a south-southeast or a south-southwest, but if you have an east wind or a west wind or especially a north wind, this doesn't work at all. But if you have any of the other three, south, south-southwest, south-southeast, this rig will work out pretty great. So once you throw this line out with that wind, it's going to carry your balloon as far as you can get it. I have a couple of Penn Defiance reels. I have 300 yards of line on those. So I will get this balloon out about 290 yards before I stop it. The reason I put the balloon right on the swivel, right on the ring of the balloon, when you get a red that pulls down real hard on this, it pops it right off. All it usually ends up leaving is just the ring. So this way you get a big red on there, you're not having to fight the balloon and the fish. Balloon pops off, balloon goes away, all you got to reel in is the fish. So it works out real great, especially like I said, if you have that south wind, that rig works wonders. Another term you might hear someone say they're freelining live bait, whether it be freelining tilapia, freelining perch, freelining big old shad. I prefer tilapia just because they stay alive for a very long time. All this is just, you know, a swivel tied to a hook, barbed again, and on the top of the arch of the back, towards the back end, is usually where I put that hook through. So obviously there's no weight, so it's a little bit harder to cast that guy out. But when you do throw him out, open your bail a little bit, let the fish swim around. You probably want to use anywhere from a 2 to 4 inch tilapia, works great. And he'll just swim around. A lot of times those reds are close by, they'll come up and they'll take them. So that's the third rig I usually use out here. The fourth rig I use, and if I'm fishing on this wall, I typically only use this rig if I'm fishing on either side of the crappie wall. So if you'll look on the right and left sides, there's obviously a shoreline. The water's real shallow there. A lot of time the reds, they'll be running up and they'll just be feeding on that shoreline. So I'll just use this rig. It's any rig you want that's just going to sit on the bottom. Basically what I have, same thing. I have a 2-ounce no roll weight, some beads. Same thing again. Secondary leader tied just straight to a hook. Baits for this, same thing. I'll use a typically shrimp or a tilapia or perch. And like I said, if I'm fishing on those corners, this is basically the rig that I'm going to end up using. So these are a couple, like I said, couple tips, tricks you can use if you've never fished the wall. If you want to fish the wall, wanted some good ideas, these are a couple of suggestions you can use. Obviously, if you come out here, same thing, like I said before, always talk to anybody fishing on this wall. You'll get different ideas from everybody that's out here. Obviously, the other thing you can do is if you want to cast, spoons, rattle traps, slabs, they work pretty well as well. Me personally, I don't like having to constantly cast over and over and over and over. I like enjoying my time. I come out here, throw my lines out, I'll sit back, I'll talk to people on the wall, just kind of relax, and I typically just wait for those fish to come to me. But if you want to cast, hey, by all means you can cast. There's a lot of individuals that come out here. They're casting, like I said, spoon slabs, rattle traps, crankbaits, and they do pretty well out here. So it's just going to be what your preference is. I guess the only other thing I can kind of give as far as a suggestion, if you come out here on your boat, not too sure how well you can see it, but you want to have some sort of bumpers on your boat. Obviously your boat's up against a concrete wall, have some sort of bumpers on the edge so your boat doesn't take a beating. Especially on windy days, your boat is going to be rocking back and forth against this wall. Make sure you have some sort of protection for your boat. The other thing you need to do to make sure your boat is staying on this wall, if you've never been out here before, you need to have some way of keeping your boat from drifting off. Easiest thing I suggest on mine, not too sure how well you can see it, but I actually have 2 chains, and on the end of those chains I have 2 5-pound anchors, and those anchors will hold my boat in place. I strongly recommend do not using any kind of rope to hold your boat in place. It works for a while, but over time with the boat rocking back and forth, that rope is going to fray and you're going to lose your anchor. So just get a chain, works great, and it helps to keep your boat in place. Other than that, don't really have any other suggestions. Fishing today with my buddy Jacob, and of course Kira that you see down there. Doing pretty good today. I think we're up to about 10 reds, so we're just having a real good time. No monsters yet. I think the biggest one we got for the day was 26 inches, but we're having a great time. So obviously, you know, that's what this is all about, just coming out, enjoying your day. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions, leave comments. Like always, if you guys happen to see me out here, stop, chat, say hello, and I'll be more than willing to share any other information I have. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully it was helpful, and I'll see you guys on the wall. Talk to y'all later. Peace.